All right, for more on this, let's now speak to COSATU's Parliamentary Coordinator, Matthew Parks. Matthew, very good afternoon to you. Of course, we saw you in that clip. Perhaps expand a little bit more about some of your thoughts as COSATU. I mean, there are concerns and fears, as we've heard, that this decision by COGTA will increase the already high unemployment in the country. I mean, although these contracts were not permanent to begin with, alarm bells had been raised for some time and a while back about finding a permanent solution to the CWP contracts, even during the presidential imbizos that were held. Just give us a sense then of your position as COSATU.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. So I think for us, the immediate crisis is the persons who will be exited from this community works programs from the end of this month, and that the minister has said people who are 55 years and above will be exited. The problem there is that with all of the challenges of the CWP and all of its faults, its imperfections and so forth, many people would depend upon it. And if we're exiting them, what is the alternative source of income for them? They're not going to find jobs in this economy when you have a nearly 42% unemployment rate, and they don't qualify for the state old age grant as well, which only kicks in when you're 60 years of age. So there's a 5-year gap and there's no solution from the state. So I think for us it's a crisis. We appreciate the state is facing many fiscal challenges, local government too, but the solution to that can't be just take the most vulnerable, the most impoverished members of society who have very little economic opportunities available to them and simply throw them out the door. There must be a better solution to this. I think for us, we had hoped government would have done something better than simply say, come the end of the month, you're on your own, good luck. There are many problems with the CWP, with the expanded public works programs. Often we find that many municipalities, because of the financial constraints, are simply outsourcing what should be permanent municipal jobs. All the conditions of service, all the benefits of service and so forth. They're outsourcing to these CWP programs because they can pay them a fraction of their salary. They get paid below minimum wage. They don't get the normal benefits of medical, a pension, a 13th check, and all of that kind of stuff. So it really becomes a source of cheap labor, but we're not resolving the fundamental issue, which one is a dysfunctional municipalities who are often struggling, who are deteriorating at an alarming rate. It's a stagnant economy, it's limited fiscal resources for the state. But to simply throw those who are the most poor members of society into the street, that's not a solution. The solution is to see how do you fix local government, how do you reduce wasteful expenditure and corruption, etc., how do you grow the economy, but not to abandon the most vulnerable members of society.
And Matthew, perhaps if you can just shed light, we know that 250,000 people benefit from the CWP program. Do we know how many people will lose out on the contracts over the age of 55, especially when you consider, as some have said, that many of the affected workers are still considered employable, but may not necessarily find a job at that age?
It's quite a large amount. It could be easily 50,000 and above. A lot of the different streams of the CWP actually target older people above 40 years of age. There's some which target young people, obviously, but many of the cleaning programs, many of the community programs, the arts and culture, the environmental programs, often those, to be honest with you, target middle-aged African women in our townships, and for whom there are very little job opportunities available. So if you are a woman who's 55 years of age, you've not had a job for many, many decades, you live in Guguletu, highly in the rural areas, there's not many opportunities available to you besides these programs. People don't love these programs. The amount they pay is below the minimum wage. They get paid about 13 Rand an hour. Might get 4 or 5 hours worth of work for 2 or 3 days a week. It's not a great amount of money by any stretch of imagination, but it does enable somebody to buy a loaf of bread, to pay for some electricity, to buy milk, to buy some little bit of good, at least to sustain themselves. And as little as it is, and much as it is a poverty, it's below poverty wage, to be honest, it's frankly scandalous. But to tell those people, well, from February, you're on your own, that is a crisis. We don't think that's morally justifiable. Government needed to come with a better plan, and likewise, Treasury should have come with a better plan. We are convinced in the state there are resources, and if we're going to exit these people, then we should be enabling them then to enter the old age grants if they can't find work.
The department, of course, says that this was due to budget cuts and other related issues. How concerned are you as COSATU that this is probably the reality for many departments? You know, as it stands, we know that around about 2,400 teachers will lose their jobs in the Western Cape due to budget cuts.
No, it is a crisis. That's why we, as COSATU, have been raising the alarm bells around the fiscal constraints for the past 5 years. You can see many departments, many municipalities, many state-owned enterprises are in a real crisis because of state capture, of corruption, mismanagement, underinvestment, infrastructure collapsing, etc. And that's what we've been so alarmed by when government at all levels, from national to local, doesn't respond sufficiently to address these crises, because this is the consequence if you don't fix the dysfunctionality of the state, if you don't grow the economy. But again, within a budget of 2 trillion rand, we are convinced there is alternatives besides cutting support for the most vulnerable members of society. We could have cut what the councillors make, we could have cut what mayors make, we could have looked at the infrastructure priorities. There's a variety of issues we could have dealt with. There's the issue of wasteful expenditure, of rollovers, of budget, etc. There's many issues we could have rather have cut than to simply say we're going to cut for the most vulnerable. I think for us, we have to prioritize, and we must always prioritize in favor of the poorest members of society, and not just simply look at them as an expenditure item that's easily sacrificable.
Just speaking on long-term, solutions here, the role of unions, the role of other societal organizations. Are there any policies or even initiatives that, for instance, COSATU is advocating for to provide sustainable employment opportunities, especially as in this case for older workers, and as you rightfully say, just given the economical constraints that we are living under?
Yeah, so look, all of these things, they kind of link to each other. And, one can put the plaster on the wound, but one has got to deal with the fundamental issue, which is a stagnant economy, a dysfunctional state. So this is why we have proposed already in 2019 for a debt relief package for Eskom, which at least has now come into effect for about R250 million. We can now see the progress. Eskom has overcome load shedding. We've had 8 months free of load shedding. That's a major injection to the economy. It's worth at least 1% of the GDP growth rate. We need to see more action around Transnet, because if Transnet is modernized, is fully operational from the rail to the ports, that enables our export industries, so of mining, manufacturing, agriculture, to really take off. That adds another 1% to GDP growth. Those are major sectors of the economy in terms of jobs, in terms of tax revenues, etc. We need to see a bit more effort get into to really make metro rail fully functional, because again, that boosts the urban economy, enabling workers to get to the workplace on time. But when we do need a plan around local government, we have yet to see a coherent plan. We've seen PowerPoints and talk of district development models, but we've yet to see it. And the stats around local government are very scary. The amount of dysfunctionality, the financial alarm bells are really quite worrying. And what we're seeing now today on the CWP is a consequence of that. And we're not seeing government moving quickly. We do think we need to look at consolidating some municipalities which are not sustainable. But we do need fundamentally a new financial model for municipalities. And again, the crisis of local government is what is causing municipalities not to pay Eskom the debts. So we need to address it, because it has a spillover effect across the economy, across society. We do need to see what kind of stimulus package can the state put into the economy, including the private banks as well, because the state can't do everything, just doesn't have the money. But to make credit more affordable, more accessible for SMEs, because again, we need this to kind of grow the economy. But whilst we're kind of unlocking and removing the obstacles to economic growth, we do need to give support to the poor, to the unemployed, especially young people. That needs to include a revamped public employment programs, following the presidential employment program model, which really does have a useful skills and employment pathway to helping people gain the experience and earn a minimum wage and hopefully find permanent employment. And again, the private sector too can't simply shift all the responsibility to the state, because the state will never have enough resources. So the private sector does need to look at utilizing the money available through the SETAs to hire young people through artisanship, through internship programs, to give them the kind of experience they need to find their first job. So I think fundamentally for us, though, is about the urgency of the crisis, because at times it seems government, from national to provincial to local, takes a business as usual approach. We've seen the private sector also kind of shirking its responsibilities, simply saying that the state must fix it. And we can't. This is a national crisis. If you don't fix the unemployment rate, everything we do as a society will not be sustainable. It has to be our national priority. But we can do it. We did it during COVID-19. We're sure we can pull the resources together. But we've got to elevate our unemployment crisis to our single most pressing national crisis.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthew. I mean, it is a very heavy one, particularly as you consider that tens of thousands will be paid for the last time this month. Our understanding is, of course, the last paycheck will come in on the 25th of January for thousands of these workers. But thank you so much for your time. Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator there for us.